Hi everyone, my name is Esredu and I'm welcome you back to my channel. Well, we are back again with our reaction video. And as way of acknowledging the source of this particular piece, it is from Turning Point UK and it is titled as Charlie Kirk Tears into Anti-Israel Students. Bro! Alright, without much ado, ladies and gentlemen, please sit back, relax, and let's enjoy this beautiful piece. Let's go!
I have a disagreement about the whole Palestine-Israel thing. I promise not to take up as much time as the last person who was up here. But I'd like to open with maybe like a little statement, which is that, I'm not too partial to either particular side of the political spectrum. But I think that a sad reality is when we talk about the Palestine issue, it's the Gaza Strip is 50% people under the age of 15. It's about 2 million people and about 5 to 25 square miles. And the reality of it is that Israel has said they're going to make a complete siege of the area. They've cut off electricity, they've cut off water, and that's kind of a sad reality. And the reality is they also can't leave. There's only 2 ports of entry and exit. And so as much as you or others might be pro-Israel, how do we not condemn the Israelis for taking away resources like water from a population that's the majority children? And at what point do we say that it's kind of an open genocide, right? Like when Israel, well, I mean, I know it's easy to.
You realize on Saturday they killed 900 Jews, right?
I understand. I understand.
One side's doing the genocide, the other side is retaliating.
One side's definitely swinging up and one side's swinging down. And I think that when you're a strip of land at which all of your water, airways, and electricity is controlled by a state, which you can't leave, and it gets bombed by missiles. I don't really think it's quite equivocal. I mean, obviously, everyone here can condemn the killing of civilians, and that's not a debate that I'm going to have with anybody, left or right.
Sure.
But at what point or time, you say you criticize Republicans, but why don't we ever criticize Israel for what they're doing by turning off water? I mean, how?
Well, I'm not going to criticize. Again, let me just ask a hypothetical. If Cuba came to Miami and killed 50,000 Americans, should we cut off their water? Answer the question.
No, absolutely not.
Okay, I disagree.
You think we should cut off water to people?
If the Cuban government came and killed 50,000 Americans, which is the population equivalent, right? Sure. So 900 Jews would be 50,000 Americans.
Yeah.
I would completely support war against a country that kills 50,000 Americans. Cuba is the same, about similar distance, right? So yes, I would restrict food, water. It would be all-out war against a country that touched our homeland.
Well, you know what they call all-out war against a populace of people that are stuck in an area? It's a genocide, right? And so as much as I agree...
No, hold on a second. No. First of all, if that was the case, why is Israel telling civilians to leave a certain area, number one?
Well, only that are allowed to leave,
hold on a second.
Right?
Wait, hold on. I'm sorry, what?
Like, are Palestinians allowed to leave the Gaza Strip?
Well, they're moving to a different location of the Gaza Strip before bombardments happen. That's number one. Number two, they're already talking about humanitarian corridors being built. Did you know that? They're talking about humanitarian corridors being built with Egypt. So there's already a plan from both the Mediterranean side and the south side. But honestly, I'm not going to overly specify this because war is a really brutal, nasty thing.
I
and
tell
you
you,
can say
bro.
whatever you want about Israel. We're not going to agree on it, right?
Sure.
Israel did not invite this war.
No, I don't think so either.
Right, but they have to retaliate, and war is the worst thing humans do. Here's my prayer, that Israel doesn't overreact. Americans don't send troops, and that this is short, and that the terrorists that did this are held to justice. That's what we need to publicly say. But I am not, and you're right. There are kids that are going to die. That pains me. The heaviness should be on you. But the answer is you just kind of roll over and allow people to come into your country, into kibbutzes, into concerts, and mowing down people and say, catch you next time?
I'm just not entirely sure what water has to do with the conflict, Mr. Kirk. I just don't see how the Israelis, the Palestinians, the PLO, and Hamas
honestly,
can use water.
Two things. Here's the issue. The Palestinian Authority is too busy spending $300 million a year incentivizing the slaying of Jews instead of actually going and purchasing water filtration services, all sorts of different things there. Number two, so they build their headquarters under hospitals. It's a fact. They use the entire population of women and children in Gaza as a massive 2.5 million person human shield. That's sick. There are no good solutions here. There's not one that I'm going to say this is wonderful and beautiful and glamorous and this is excellent. It's all crummy. It's all hell. And they invited hell. And something that we like to gloss over as Westerners is we get to live in a very peaceful society, relatively, and we don't realize that sometimes you need a Dresden. And that's a really hard thing to swallow. But guess what? What we did in World War II to defeat the Nazis was 100% morally defensible. And there were people that also died. Israel has a right to defend themselves, and they're going to retaliate. And Hamas, they brought this upon themselves. They were the stewards of those women and children. And as stewards of those women and children, they said, we don't care about the women and children enough that we're going to go into the other. They knew what was. You're trying to tell me that they're shocked that they're getting bombarded and their water's cut off and their electricity is cut? No, they invited it. Final thought.
Sure. I wouldn't necessarily say they, but I do understand the sentiment, right?
Okay.
I do agree that Hamas brings it upon
But
themselves.
I think we can agree. Here's what I will say. I do not think U.S. troops outside of very specific special forces to rescue Americans, which I'm sure you might be able to agree with, should be involved in this conflict.
Yeah.
We cannot allow ourselves to get into another Middle Eastern quagmire that Lindsey Graham and Nikki Haley and Mike Pence might try to get us into. That is something we can agree with, okay?
Well, ladies and gentlemen, this has been another beautiful conversation, if I should be honest with you wonderful people. I just like the gentleman all of a sudden, you understand? Like, I'm talking of the student who brought the question. Like, he's very intelligent, soft-spoken, and violence-free gentleman. Bro, I just created a new word for myself, violence-free gentleman. Well, I really appreciate the fact that, just like myself, he decided to make his stand known by not being a supporter to any of the two parties involved in the situation, Israelites and Hamas. Yes, he made it known and he made it very obvious. And I really respect and appreciate the gentleman for that. One beautiful thing is that regardless of the conversation between Charlie and the gentleman, where they ended up, going back and forth, at the end of the day, they all came to a beautiful conclusion that war is not a good thing. War is a bad thing. And they ended up joining my troops or groups, whereby we are always advocates for peace, that war is indeed a bad thing. We always wish that the world will be a better place for you and I. And that's beautiful. I really appreciate the two gentlemen involved in this particular conversation. Yep. One thing I really want to touch on is that I really support what Charlie said at a certain point in the video, that Americans shouldn't involve themselves in this particular war. Yep, no other country should involve themselves in it, but rather the giant global institutions should rather try their possible best, even with the support of other countries, to ensure that peace prevails between the two countries involved. Well, trust me, a whole lot of women, children of school-going age are losing their lives day in and out. Just imagine a situation whereby your water and electricity supply has been cut off and you are being bombarded with, bro, war is indeed a bad thing. It is our prayer that the world will be a better place. Something of the sort will always be a thing of the past, bro. Gosh. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, I wouldn't talk much on this. Now, let me end this particular piece by saying your comments are welcome. Do all to keep your comments coming. And when necessary, I will always try my possible best to provide the needed response to your question or reaction to your question. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, I really appreciate you so much making time out of your busy schedule to join me on the content I do create. We just reacted to Charlie Kirk and a student, of which this particular video describes as anti-Israel student. Bro, nah, I disagree with the title. It says Charlie Kirk tears into anti-Israel student. Bro, he is not anti-Israel student. You understand? This particular gentleman supports neither of the parties involved. He's rather advocating for peace. Like, he's very compassionate, if I'm being honest with you. Because the mere fact that water supply has been cut off, electricity has been cut off, and children of school-going age like himself are going through all this hassle, bro. It gives him nightmare. It gives him sleepless nights anytime he thinks about it. So man, never describe him as an anti-Israel student, bro. I disagree. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, once again, I really appreciate your support. So if you like the content I do create, so if you love what I do, and you genuinely want to be part of this beautiful family, do subscribe to the channel, like this video, and keep your comments coming. Peace.